The Battle of Stirling Bridge was a pivotal battle in the First War of Scottish Independence, which would cement William Wallace as a Scottish legend, as even today he is one of the most famous Scots from history, despite little being known about him. England's John de Warenne, the Earl of Surrey, was moving north with a huge cavalry and infantry, with extreme confidence he could beat the Scots in battle or through negotiations. Near Stirling Castle, the English would arrive at a small wooden narrow bridge crossing the River Forth. There on the opposite bank was William Wallace and Andrew Murray's army, intent on fighting to defend Scotland. Warenne delayed the crossing for several days to allow for negotiations, as he was very confident Scotland would choose peace over war after recent English victories and their obvious military superiority. He was then surprised by the refusal to surrender, and on the 11th of September decided to force the crossing. The Scots were encamped on the Abbey Craig, where the National Wallace Monument stands today. Their army was predominantly infantry, armed with long spears, and drawn from mainly the lesser ranks of society, as most of the Scottish nobles were being held captive in England. The bridge was so narrow that only 2 horsemen side by side could cross at a time. The entire English army would have taken several hours to cross, even after which they are forced to enter a confined narrow loop of river, being exposed to flanking. All this before they are even ready to give battle. At dawn, the English infantry started to cross, only to be recalled soon after, as their leader Warenne had overslept. Again they would cross the bridge, and again they would be recalled, as Warenne believes the Scots finally might negotiate. 2 Dominican friars are sent to Wallace to acquire his surrender, only to return shortly afterwards with William Wallace's first recorded speech. "Tell your commander that we are not here to make peace, but to do battle, defend ourselves and liberate our kingdom. Let them come on, and we shall prove this in their very beards." Warenne decides to advance. He is advised to send a cavalry force upstream to the ford of Drip in order to cover the infantry crossing. However, King Edward's treasurer, Hugh de Cressingham, intervenes, pointing out that too much of the king's money has already been wasted, and insists to cross at once to bring the campaign to a swift end. Wallace and Murray would wait until more than half the English army had crossed the bridge before springing their trap. The Scottish spearmen rushed down the causeway, flanking and cutting off any hope of an English escape. The heavy English cavalry was virtually useless when trapped in a confined space. However, one group of English knights did manage to make it back over the bridge. After they crossed, Warenne, who had stayed put, ordered the bridge to be destroyed, and then fled for Berwick. Over half the English army was left to its fate on the Scottish side of the river. Over 100 men at arms and 5,000 infantry were massacred. Among them was Hugh de Cressingham, King Edward's hated tax collector, who had crossed first. Despite a big Scottish victory, Andrew Murray was fatally wounded and would die 2 months later on. He would be buried at Fortrose Cathedral on Black Isle, north of Inverness. Victory brings the collapse of the English occupation. Wallace, now the Guardian of Scotland, goes on to devastate the north of England in hope of forcing King Edward to acknowledge defeat. Records show that 715 villages are burnt. Until 1297, the heavily armed and mounted knight had been an invincible force on the battlefield. Stirling Bridge was the first battle in Europe to see a common army of spearmen defeat a feudal host. Stirling Bridge also destroyed the myth of English invincibility, as the Scots had not defeated a major English army since the Dark Ages, but this victory seemed to strengthen their resist against King Edward. However, the humiliation of losing to lowly Scots only strengthened Edward's determination, and under a year later, Wallace's Scots army were defeated at the Battle of Falkirk. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already.